Casey's really good.
Next year.
I think he's leaving us. He's got one more year, but I think he's still leaving because he went out for the senior, senior day. So I think he's still
I was teaching class through the entire first half, so I missed it.
the first half went pretty well for us, actually.
I noticed.
But the second half, not quite so much, but we still didn't.
The second half,
We didn't give up.
it wasn't until the fourth quarter where Nebraska'd all over the field.
So anyway,
Yeah. I will confess that it turns out when I was listening to the game, I was cheering for Wisconsin.
you should. I don't care where I live, I will always root for Nebraska.
I wasn't sure how it was gonna end up, but that's the way it went. So, because I was happier when they scored the touchdown than I would have been had they didn't. And if that's a problem for you guys, get more problems in your life, because you clearly don't have enough.
He's rubbing salt in our wounds.
Oh, it could be much worse. Your wife saw Pastor Hillman on Friday. Wisconsin gear from head to toe.
Oh.
I just looked at him, so you're looking to pick a fight. I'm just trying to educate people.
He would have been really disappointed in me, I didn't even notice.
I think he went downstairs, beautiful.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. All right, before we dive into this, I have a question for you guys. Are we having Bible class next week?
That's,
Thanksgiving weekend, yeah.
It won't matter to me.
Okay. Yeah. Then we'll have it. Because, well, if everyone, or a lot of people are gonna be gone, that's one thing. If most of y'all will be here, then we may as well have it. I just need to know now, so I know whether or not to prep this week or not, because I'm leaving.
right after service.
No, I'll leave Thursday morning.
Oh.
New Ulm,
You won't.
Minnesota, where my brother lives. His family lives there too, I'm not sure why. I've met the guy, I wouldn't want to live in the same place he does, but I pick on everybody, including people who aren't here. Okay. Anything interesting happened for you guys this week? Didn't see any old high school classmates or anything?
Oh, yeah, that was fun.
Oh, that's gonna be a monthly occurrence, it sounds like.
Okay, going places.
No, because I drive a lot, they decided to just, Hastings is kind of central for everybody, and it's no driving for me, so, yeah, we'll be hosting the pastors' meetings here.
Is it always the same time every month, or?
It's always a Friday, but if there's a Friday, basically what we do is, in the meeting previous, we sit down, look at our schedule, see if there's a Friday we can't do it. And decide on a Friday. Like next month, it'll be the 9th.
Did you get your rep?
Yeah.
No, they didn't jokes.
We just sit and complain about our congregations. Mainly Delsey.
I know we get to talk to the farmer, but it's that preacher jokes.
Nah, the jokes don't come. The reality tends to be more entertaining than the jokes anyway. I had a few things to say this month. Let me put it this way, I appreciate you guys quite a bit. Never once have you yelled at me for not using the King James.
You know, I had to read something in King James not too long ago, and man, I bet, you know, that's what I was brought up on, but I about can't understand it anymore. It's been so long.
Yeah. Well, it's archaic. The English that was used in the King James was old when the King James came out. So, anyway, instead of Old English, let's look at a translation of some Old German, shall we? The place of reason in Christian life. Who would like to start reading for us? Okay.
Dr. Luther was asked whether since it is necessary to exclude reason from articles of faith, reason has any value at all for Christians. He replied, prior to faith and the knowledge of God, reason is darkness, but in believers it's an excellent instrument. Just as all gifts and instruments of nature are evil in godless men, so they are good in believers. Faith is now furthered by reason, speech, and eloquence, whereas these were only impediments prior to faith. Enlightened reason, taken captive by faith, receives life from faith, where it is slain and given life again. As our body will rise from the dead glorified, so our reason is different than believers than it was before, for it doesn't fight against faith, but promotes it. Our speech, which used to be godless and blasphemous, now preaches, praises God, and gives the thanks. Thus thy speech is different from what it once was. Now it's enlightened. So iron which glows for fire is different from iron that doesn't glow. This is regeneration of the word, and the third person, and then the person being the same.
Reason is subject to vanity, as all of God's creatures are subject to vanity. That is, to fall. But faith separates the vanity from the substance. David used a bow, a sword, and weapons, and he said, now in my bow will I trust, not in my bow will I trust. Psalm 44, verse 6. But he didn't spurn the weapons. So believers say, my wife, children, gold, etc., won't help in heaven, but they don't throw them away. They separate vanity from substance. Gold remains gold even on the neck of the gold. The body of a whore is just as much God's creation as the body of the honorable maker. So vanity is to be put aside, not substance. When Job criticized his wife for falling wife, he called her foolish. Although women are foolish for the most part, God spared the sex and said, you talk like a fool. The common people can't do this. They want to throw away the substance of the vanity, but this is impossible. For unless there was something good, there couldn't be something bad. As Aristotle said, the bad can't be of itself, but it's the good that's been spoiled. So vanities exist in good substances. Reason, speech, and all gifts and created things are therefore different from believers and Christians and unbelievers.
All right, thank you. You like that quote there, Rachel?
No. Talking about women in general. Oh, yeah,
Well, you,
I don't care.
you gotta remember the context of this. He's sitting at his dinner table. It's extremely likely Katie was sitting right there with him. I can just see him looking over. And women are, you know, normally foolish. And then go,
And she did all the work for that table, and he sat there on his butt,
and that roof wouldn't have been over their heads unless he had been blabbing. In fact, she'd still be a nun had he not done his blabbing,
Yeah.
so.
You're right. 6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
Yeah. If you do read through, I'm obviously cherry picking things out of Luther's Table Talks, which in turn have been cherry picked. If you look at the original version of this in the Latin and German, it's a set of 2 volumes that are about a foot thick. So in the book I've been using for this, they selected the ones that they thought were the most useful. And out of those, I've selected for you the ones that would be most useful to you, in my opinion, because I don't think you really want to read short paragraphs about him complaining about people you've never heard of before, unless the complaints have direct impact of something we have going on today, right? And in those sections I skipped, there are a lot in praise of his wife, but Luther wasn't above giving his wife a hard time. Because, well, let's face it, women are foolish. Nancy's about to huck a hymnal at my head.
No, actually, I was thinking about my Uncle Fritz, and he and his wife were probably married, well, they were in total married 66 years, but maybe around their 55th, or he always did this. And you gotta understand, he was out to here heavy. She was not slim either. They were way up into their age, and yet he'd come just to egg her on and put his arm around her and say, "Isn't my wife beautiful?" You know, and she'd say, "Fred." Nobody called him Fred except Aunt Clara. He was Uncle Fritz to everybody else. She'd say, "Fred," you know. He knew just what to say to egg her on.
Yeah, that's good for you.
And that's what.
Okay.
I gotta be careful when I get X-Lax in my coffee.
Is that what happened to me?
She offers you coffee, you might have said something shouldn't have.
Oh, my.
Uh-oh.
Poor Myra, he's got a wife like Rachel. I feel so sorry for him.
Doesn't everybody? Oh, and Nancy, I froze your cookies last week
Yes.
and completely forgot to get them out of the
Well, that's
freezer.
okay, that's okay.
So they'll be, and there's still a couple of your muffins down there, so I'll be serving that next week.
I give somebody something, it's theirs to do with whatever they want.
I just wanted to let you know they haven't been forgotten. They were just temporarily forgotten. Anyway, so, any questions on what we read? What was that?
I said, I might do that. Thanks for the idea.
If Myron comes in looking significantly skinnier, we know he was running his mouth at some
Well,
point.
not here at all.
All right, well, if you don't have any questions, I have a few. In what way is reason an impediment to faith?
It's not, there, it's on here, Mom. Oh, some questions on that. Oh, reason.
Well, I think you can explain away anything if you look at it long enough, and that would be called reason.
Well, think
And
about,
if you get far enough down the line, then you've lost your faith.
what does science demand? Science demands proof, right? It demands that you be able to prove anything you're stipulating. Can you prove the existence of God beyond a shadow of a doubt? Not to an unbeliever, no.
I was gonna say though that I think sometimes people just forget to look around and the beautiful, countryside that we have and whatever, and could a big bang really? I just haven't,
Nancy,
looking around.
you are using reason enlightened by faith. This is that's one of the important points we're dealing with here. Could that actually happen? The answer is obviously not. To us. The answer is it has to be something like that to others who have not been so enlightened. So what changes reason as an impediment to faith?
Well, it's like,
Yeah.
as a believer, you don't let reason override God's word.
Yeah. Frankly, belief. Belief is what removes the impediment and makes it a useful tool. Okay, what makes that change possible?
The gospel, word, and sacrament.
That's an excellent answer to a poorly worded question, but it is unfortunately not the one I'm looking for. Let me rephrase this question in a way that might get at what I was saying. How does faith change reason from something that's a detriment into something that is useful? Well, think about what Nancy has just said.
You just look at everything in a whole different light.
Exactly. Because you can use the scientific method to argue your way out of creation, or you can use the scientific method to argue yourself into creation, depending on how you approach it. To continue down the path of science, are you familiar with Occam's razor? You are, but you don't know it's called Occam's razor. The simplest answer has to be the best answer. Because complicated answers frequently are wrong. The fewer moving parts something has, the more likely it is to be true, correct? So what makes more sense? Hydrogen is eternal, exploded, and over billions of years created everything? Well, a lot has to happen for that to happen. Or God is eternal and created everything. Which one has fewer moving parts? Yeah. If you apply Occam's razor to why are we here, the answer is necessarily God. You're going to hear a lot about Occam's razor from me over the years. It's one of my favorite philosophical concepts. So can you explain Luther's point about David to me? How he said he used a bow, he used a sword, he used these things. He wrote in my bow I do not trust, but he still used it. What's the point?
God wants us to use a reason to, okay, this is how this is gonna play out.
Just because something isn't necessarily 100% worthy of your trust, it isn't the end, it isn't the most important moving factor, doesn't mean it's useless. It can still be quite useful, actually, right? So is there a difference between you talk like a fool and you are a fool?
Yeah, you are a fool, sounds like the point of no return. You just talk like one once in a while.
Yeah. There's not a person in here with the possible exception of Bonnie who hasn't talked like a fool occasionally. But, does that mean you're all fools? You can act like something without being something. Why does Luther say common people can't separate the substance from the vanity?
I think Luther pointed out kind of good when he said that if a piece of gold is around a thorn's neck, it's still it's still gold, excuse me. There's the foolish side of me coming out. But, you know, if that same gold was around, oh, I don't know, a pastor's neck or a good woman's neck, you know, it's still gold. So substance versus vanity.
Yeah. One of the ways I see this played out a lot in modern society, at least, is there's no such thing as a positive or negative emotion. Emotions are emotions. It's what you do with that emotion that makes it positive or negative. An example from when I was younger, I tended to be a little bit on the angry side, and by a little bit, I mean a lot. But I realized this when I was young. So you know what I did with that? I used it. I played football, I wrestled. Sports that make getting angry at something very useful, because then you can knock it around. In one of my jobs, I was well known for being able to pick up very heavy objects, move them around when it would have taken 3-4 of my coworkers to have moved them. One day, my boss looked at me and said, "How in the world," I'm editing, "do you do that?" Well, basically, I just get angry at the thing. You got angry at a tree stump? Sure did. How? It was mocking me. The tree stump was mocking you. Sure was. How was the tree stump mocking you? It was telling me I couldn't pick it up. So I got mad at it. And I picked that up and I threw it in a pickup truck. Well, I guess it works. Sure does. Anger was a tool for me. It wasn't a spiteful, evil thing. It was a useful. It was a tool I used. The substance, the emotion, was neither bad nor good. The use is what defined it as either bad or good. And that's Luther's point in all of this, separating the substance from the vanity. However, it is an incredibly narrow bridge to walk across. And for most people, your gut reaction, oh, he's an angry guy. Well, that's bad. Not really. It's bad if it's used improperly, but when used properly, it can be useful. And that's difficult for people who are unwilling to put the thought, the time to parse these sorts of things out into it. And when Luther speaks that way, he generally refers to the common people, because you gotta understand something. In 16th century Germany, your average person had zero education. They put very little thought into more than making it through the day. And for good reason. That's what they had. They had to make it through the day. So these sorts of fine points, they weren't able to make on their own. It took someone with an education, someone with reason, someone with the ability to parse these sorts of things out to explain it to them. Now, I don't know. Anyone in here have anything beyond a bachelor's degree? You do realize that even with a high school education back then, you would have been one of the more highly educated people in whatever community you were in, right? You would all be considered scholars. So when you read Luther saying something about the common people, he's not talking about you. He's talking about the people of his day. And putting that into context makes his point a lot more clear. Wouldn't you say? He's not describing modern day laity like you guys are. How could he possibly describe you? He died 500 years before you were born. Oh, 400 at least. He ain't talking about you. He's talking about his people.
Of course, one thing you said a while back is, as time goes by, we get dumber.
Well, that's true.
And
I,
they interview a lot of these kids from Harvard,
mhm.
and I'll tell you, they're dumb as rocks. It's a brainwash so bad.
The way I like to look at it is, in my time over across the pond, I learned quite well the difference between knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge is knowing things. Wisdom is knowing how to use what you know. A lot of our education system, a lot of their education system is imparting knowledge, but not imparting wisdom. Do you want an example of what I mean? You sell me something for $32, I give you $100. How much do you give me back? No one knows?
68.
You did that in your head. Over there, most of the merchants I know had needed to do that with a calculator.
so there isn't too much difference. We don't use cash very much at, say, Walmart or like that, but when they had to count money back to you, they didn't. The machine would say, this person needs $68 back, and so then they would count that out, but they couldn't figure it out on their own. That was going on for a long time. These were kids that graduated from high school. They couldn't do it.
The difference between knowledge and wisdom. Okay, so what do you think of Luther's Aristotle quote? I think we've covered adequately the difference between substance and vanity, right? Vanity is a misapplication of something that should be used well. And the substance is what the tool's designed for. For example, I have a bunch of tools in my house. If I let Zeke use them, oh, that's not fair. I've actually taught him how to use most of them. If I let Zeke a year and a half ago use them, he would use them poorly. Our house would be destroyed. But does that make the tools bad? Makes the way they're being used bad. Substance versus vanity. Make sense? Okay, Aristotle's quote. There it is. The bad can't be of itself. As Aristotle said, the bad can't be of itself, but is the good that has been spoiled. What do you think of that quote?
Well, you could use it nowadays like, with guns. Guns don't shoot themselves.
Guns are a tool. A tool, when used properly,
They're tool.
yeah. But when used improperly,
Then it's bad.
And this could take us down a long discussion that I don't frankly want to get into. So we're stopping there, okay? The tool is not the issue. The use of the tool is the issue. You guys know there's coffee over there, right? Wake up, people. Talk. You guys are gonna hear me talk for the next hour. This is your turn. So sum it up. What's Luther's point in all of this?
Just say it again, human reason doesn't override God's word, and he's just right, but
How do you use it rightly?
you gotta let the Bible be God's word be the final judge on what you think to say, and if it isn't in conjunction and right to it, then you gotta change your mind to be right with what the Bible says.
Allow the Bible to be the norms norma and reason to be the norms normata. Yes, Latin. We're all excited for Latin, right? Norms norma means the norming norm, or the tool that is used to make the decisions. Reason is a tool, but it is a tool that can only be normed. The normed norm, norma, normata, or the tool that that is shaped by the tool that you use to make decisions. The Bible is the tool that makes the decisions. The reason, when wielded in conjunction with the Bible, is an amazing, powerful, effective tool. When used outside of Scripture, it's just you blabbering. Does that make sense? Should I use more Latin? You guys gotta understand, I studied Latin for 5 years. If I don't use it occasionally, that's 5 wasted years.
You gotta explain yourself.
I better,
Not to mention you'll forget it.
exactly.
We'll take your word for it.
Yeah. Hey, you're welcome to look it up. Those two terms I just used are frankly, fairly common theological terms, at least among Lutherans. And you're welcome to ask any of the other pastors if I use them correctly.
I doubt if we'll remember it then.
Well, I'll be posting this on YouTube at some point. You can go back and look. All right, anything further on this? All right.